Toronto. My name is David, and I'm with the traveling band here. The four of us just flew in from Tel Aviv this morning. We're starting an 18-day tour, so we're very excited to kick it off in Toronto. Very happy you guys ordered some very nice weather for us. Not too cold, no snow, so thank you very much for that. I see a lot of familiar faces. We have some new material, which is great. And I see some new faces as well, so I'm very excited. So this evening, you have not just Rabbi Lazer Brody speaking, you also have Rabbi speaking. So I'm going to introduce two speakers, and the program's a little bit different than the past. So if you've been following the work we do, so you see this gentleman over here in the matching black hat, we've got these all together on sale. And his name is Joseph Nechama, and so all four of us are students of Rabbi Shalom Arush. And so all the books you see out there, they're written by Rabbi Shalom, and they're translated. The ones in English are translated by Rabbi Brody. The ones in Spanish are translated by Rabbi Galed, and there's a bunch of other languages. I don't know if we have them out there, and they're translated by other students as well. And so about 20 years ago, Yosef, who I actually hired to take pictures of me, thank you, and he started with Rabbi Shalom 20 years ago in a very small office with a vision of spreading Rabbi Shalom's teachings to the entire world. And he had the vision of doing it, one, on the internet, which people said, you don't do Torah on the internet. Or they said, what's the internet? This is 20 years ago. And today we have not only one of the most popular sites in the Jewish world, but we have a site that's in 6 or 7 languages, millions of people visit it a year, and it spreads all the Rav's teachings. And we have, I think we're doing about 55 to 60 countries. We send orders of books and CDs from Rabbi Shalom out of Yosef's office to 55 or 60 countries, ones I've never heard of before. But he assures me that there are countries and to legitimately go into those places. So thank you, Yosef, for all the hard work that you've done. Thank you. And by the way, the trips are also Yosef's idea. So about, I don't know, before my time, maybe 10, 12 years ago, he had the idea that, listen, we need to get out, and we need to make sure that the Rabbi Shalom's teachings are out there. So besides traveling with Rabbi Shalom or traveling with Rabbi Brody, traveling with Rabbi Galed, all the trips, anytime you see us on the road, this is something also that Yosef had the foresight to say, hey, we need to be out there, leave our families, and go and speak and let everybody hear the teachings and get introduced to the books and the CDs. So really, it's really his vision that we do all this, and it really is an amazing vision, and what I've been happy to be part of for about the last 7 or 8 years. So thanks again, Yosef. So this evening, the material is a little bit different than the past. Like I said, if you saw these flyers out here, if you believe you can damage, believe you can fix. So it's a famous saying by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And if I asked all of you, hey, do you think you guys can screw something up really good? A relationship, a business? Most people say, yeah, I can screw it up really good. I mean, I know I could. I've done it plenty of times. When asked, did you fix it? Maybe you stop for a second and say, well, maybe I could fix it, maybe it could be fixed. This one really can't be fixed, but this is, what Hashem wants if we're leading a spiritual life. We don't believe we can fix it. But Rabbi Nachman believes, absolutely, if you destroyed it, you can fix it. And that's the theme tonight. And we try to be very tangible. It's not to come here and speak, and then a couple days from now, your friend asks you, how was that lecture? I saw Rabbi Brody and Rabbi Galed with it. It was unbelievable. It was fantastic. Yeah, what'd you learn? Oh, they talked about Emunah and being grateful, and everything comes from Hashem, which is great stuff. But we want to leave you something practical. We want to make sure that you can walk out of here and take at least that one relationship and one practical thing, if not a few, and be able to apply it. So I'm going to start tonight out with a quick story, and then I'm going to introduce them and we'll get started. Hopefully the story will set the tone to understand that really we don't see where the salvation is going to come from, but Hashem can bring the salvation. This is a true story. Rabbi Ephraim Waxman, he's a big famous rabbi in Israel, told this story. It happened about a year ago. There's a gentleman that came from the U.S., we're going to call him Joe, and he came to do a tziyum sekta. It's a small party or celebration after you learn a certain amount of Gemara or Talmud. And when you finish it, you go and you finish it with a bunch of people, and you finish that tractate or that section, and you celebrate it because it's a lot of work. And so he wanted to go to Israel to do this from the States, which is not common, but not so unusual. And so he came to Israel, and he made this big party in the shul. Rabbi Ephraim Waxman was there. And after he finished this tractate, he got up to speak. He said, I want to tell you my story. He says, I'm in my early 60s, and I'm from New York. That's where I grew up. And I'm the son of Holocaust survivors. And they wanted nothing to do with Judaism, which was understandable. We can relate to that. So he grew up, he had a Brit Milah, and that was it. No bar mitzvah, nothing, no Shabbat, no Hanukkah, no Rosh Hashanah, nothing. He grew up in a very secular world. He went to a very secular school system. And He got mixed up with not the best elements. When he graduated high school, he formed a business with a couple of his non-Jewish business partners, and it wasn't such a legitimate business. They weren't killing anybody, but what they were doing wasn't legal. But they were rolling in dough, making a lot of money. And one day they met in a restaurant to go ahead and close in a deal. They all walk in, and they walk out in handcuffs. It's a sting operation. Everything's on tape. They've been tracking it for the last few weeks. And these guys are in big trouble. So they post bail. One guy escapes, never seen him again. The other guy turns state's evidence. And this guy, Joe, is kind of, holding the bag, as they say. He's looking at about 25 years. And you can't believe it. He's in his early 20s. Now he's going to go spend the next 25 years in jail. I can't believe it. The next day, he's walking around Lower Manhattan, and he's distraught. He walks into a diner to get something to eat. He's sitting in picture this old diner, and he's sitting in the window, and he just starts crying. What's he going to do? 25 years, he's going to come out. What's going to happen? Meanwhile, an older gentleman's walking past the window, sees him. He walks into the diner, sits down next to him, and says, "What's the problem?" Now, Joe's not very happy. What's the problem? He's like, angry. What's the problem? What do you know about problems? This older gentleman rolls up his sleeve, and he shows him a long number. He says, "I know about problems, so maybe I can help you." So he says, "Wow." He said, I'm Jewish. My parents were in the Holocaust. And he tells him the whole story, the whole thing. And this man says, "You don't need an attorney. You need a rabbi. Let's go." Now this guy, Joe, he's got nothing. So he's okay. And they go to see a very, very holy rabbi named the Scholar Rebbe. And obviously this gentleman had a relationship with, and he tells the Rebbe the story. The Rebbe says, "Listen, I'm going to give you a bracha, and everything's going to be fine. You are going to win the case. Okay, go to the court date next, I think a week or two later, show up there on time, and don't worry, your attorney is going to come late, but you're going to win the case, and you're going to come back and tell me about it at the end." So he leaves, he feels hopeful, he has some hope. Everybody wants hope, right? So he's not a religious person whatsoever, but he has that hope. But then he walks in 9 o'clock in the morning to the court, and he sees all the FBI guys lined up in the front row, the guys that set him up, the guys in the deal. And all of a sudden, he's not feeling too good. He's sitting there, they're looking at him, everything's on tape. 9:15. Yeah, the Rebbe was right, they're late. All of a sudden, the court gets a phone call. This is, I guess, before cell phones. And the judge says, "Your lawyer just called. He's not going to make it. He missed his flight, but he's sending somebody else. Be here soon." So, court's getting a little bit impatient. 9:45, 10 o'clock. Doors open up. A young 21-year-old kid walks in. "I'm here. I'm the attorney. I'm here." Joe's like, "Are you kidding me?" This kid's like, what is this kid, 16? Can't believe it. So, sits down next to him and says, "Don't worry, I'm briefed." So the prosecution gets up there and they go through everything, all the evidence they have, and the pictures and the tapes. Now it's this kid's turn to start talking. First 5 minutes, sounds pretty good. The next hour, this guy's off the wall. Joe's like, what is he saying? I don't even understand what he's talking about. Nothing's relevant here. Oh my God. I paid this guy tens of thousands of dollars, which is a lot of money back then. It's a lot of money now. And this, I'm done. I'm finished. Maybe it's going to be more. This guy's a Meshuggah. At the end, he stops speaking. The judge says, looks at the prosecution, says, "Case dismissed. You don't have any evidence. This is ridiculous. This is circumstantial. Dismissed. That's it, done." And this guy can't believe it. Oh my God. Like that? It's over? Salvation's there? I get to walk free? Guy, he can't believe it. Goes to his attorney. "Thank you so much. It's unbelievable. How did you do it?" He says, "Well, I'll be honest with you. It's my first case." This is a true story, by the way. But the judge is my grandpa. So, I mean, we don't see where the salvations are going to come, but you have to know that they're there, and they're there with it. And this is what having hope is. And again, it's a true story. It's an amazing, incredible story. You can Google it, Rabbi Ephraim Waxman, and again, he's a big rav in Israel. So with that, I'm going to introduce the two speakers. I'm going to introduce Rabbi Brody first, who's going to speak second. Rabbi Lazer Brody, who's been with Rabbi Shalom for close to 20 years. He's translated more books than I can count. He's got a big stack behind him as well to do. And everything you hear from Rabbi Brody is like Rabbi Shalom Arush was here speaking. That's what he does. He is the English mouthpiece of Rabbi Shalom Arush. I've had the privilege to be with him for many years, and I can tell you it's exactly the same teachings. You know, he was with the Rav, speaking to him, yesterday, the day before, and it's exactly what Rabbi Shalom told him to speak. And so you get to hear it straight here without having Rabbi Shalom come from Israel. He's an amazing speaker, and he's done just tremendous work over the last 20 years in translating the Rav's books and really bringing it to millions of people. And he's just a delight to hear. And who you probably haven't heard speak before, at least not in person, is Rabbi Yonatan Galet. And Rabbi Yonatan hasn't been around as long, but he has been the Spanish mouthpiece of Rabbi Shalom for more than 10 years. And he's been learning with Rabbi even longer than that. And a lot of the material you get, if the voice sounds familiar when he starts to speak, even though he's going to speak in English tonight, but if you understand Spanish, then the CDs, you would recognize that voice because it's Rabbi Yonatan's. And, yeah. Viva Rabbi Yonatan. But he's going to speak in English tonight. He's it's a treat for us to have Yonatan with us. He's just unbelievable. You're also going to hear Rabbi Shalom's words, and he's just really so excited to have you with us, Yonatan. You know, it's really a pleasure. And without further ado, Rabbi Yonatan.
Shalom a todos. Wow, speaking English. English. Oh, sorry. Okay. Forgive me. I'm a little bit excited to be here. Baruch Hashem, we have the zchut of being Shaliach of Rabbi Shalom Arush with the amazing Emunah team, especially Rabbi Lazer Brody. They have the merit to accompany here, so very happy to be here. It's the first time I'm here physically in Toronto, but actually, first time. Very excited. But actually, I've been here before, you know. It's really amazing, spiritually, not really. I will explain to you. When I was a teenager, every Tuesday at 5:30, we had a special show in Israel called the Grassy Junior High. You know what was that? So all my childhood, I grew up with the Grassy kids. It messed up my head completely, so now the theme of starting over is really relevant because they revealed to me things I didn't know till then, and well, we're trying to fix that. Anyway, so I'm happy to be here anyway. So I usually start with a joke. The Spanish ladies will know my jokes, but they're going to be in English now, so it has to be with what we are doing here tonight. So there was two guys going around from house to house doing what do you call it, a census? That you go from house to house, you ask census, right? You ask about how many people live here and name census. In Spanish is censo, so you got to be census. Okay, so they go and you see a house, the Eden family. The Eden family, okay. They knock on the door is open, a nice person. They say, can we ask you a few questions? Sure, I know, yeah. Okay, what's your name? Name, sir? He says, Adam. Okay, Adam. And your wife? Eve. Eve, okay. Any children? Yeah, 2 kids fighting all the time. I don't know, Cain and Abel, they're back in the... So one guy said to the other, probably also the serpent lives here. But the guy say, mother-in-law, they need you here. Any mother-in-laws here? Yeah, I see the sore faces. You can't argue because every mother-in-law has a mother-in-law. So you can't argue, you can laugh. So we won't talk about mother-in-laws. Mine is very far away. She doesn't understand English, so I'm protected. There's security here, so everything's good. We want to talk about the serpent, if you will. We read in Genesis, in Bereshit, about the serpent. We won't go into it right now too much, but we see that when the serpent did what he did, it says in Hebrew about the woman, Be'etzer tildi banim. What it means, the translation is, with sorrow you will have birth, you will have kids. Usually it's translated as with pain, with labor. But the word etzev is sorrow, it's sadness actually. About the man also, the curse, what is the curse? Be'itzavon tochalena, you will eat from the fruit of the soil. Be'itzavon, etzev, again, sadness, sorrow. So we see that what the serpent introduced in mankind was the sorrow, was to be sad, sadness. And that's what the serpent does. He brings negativity. The theme of our trip is if you believe you can damage, you should believe also that you can fix, rectify, and starting over. As an introduction to Rabbi Lazer's speech, shiur, so let's understand a little bit why it's so hard for us to start over. What is missing? What's wrong with us that we feel it's so impossible? And actually, if we need to start over, that means that we did something wrong in the beginning. What did we do wrong? What did we do wrong that now we need to start over? So, I will tell you a true story. We're in stories now, telling stories, that's important. A true story that will help us to understand the message and then serve us as an introduction to the class of Rabbi Lazer. So, once upon a time, there was this emperor. You can call him a king, emperor, dictator, whatever. I practiced all these words before, so. Tyrant, what else? Caesar, a wicked Caesar, yeah? An evil one. And his aspect, he wasn't looking too kind. It wasn't very aesthetic. I will explain to you. He had one glass eye. Yeah. He was looking like Captain Hook, you know, Captain Hook? Very similar. Glass eye. One of his hands had a hook. Yeah. And he had a wooden leg, a baseball bat. And he had a horrible scar on one of his cheeks. That's what his aspect was. That's what he looked like. And one day he decided he wants to have a portrait. He wants in the palace to have a huge picture of him, like his ancestors, and for that you need a good painter, professional one. He has to bring the most professional painter in the kingdom to draw him, to paint him. They looked, they searched, Googled, everything you need. They found a French one, really expert one. They brought him. Sure, no problem. Qu'est-ce que c'est, monsieur? He started with the brushes, looking at the Caesar, starting to paint, very professionally, very accurate, and voila! You speak French here, right? I love this. Voila! Voila is in French. Voila! You've got the picture, amazing. One-on-one, amazing. The Caesars come, looking at, who is this ape? What are you doing? Are you mocking me? Off with his head! And ISIS style, they cut his head. This poor painter is not with us anymore. Anyone want to say Kaddish after the class? Well, this painter was lost. That went viral in the kingdom. Everybody talked about it. It was really the talk of the day. Okay, now the emperor wants a picture, wants his portrait. He is still with that idea. So they looked for another painter. The same level, professional one. Everybody was afraid. All the painters started to hide. Well, what's going to happen now? But they found one in a cave, hiding. They brought him, also French, actually from Quebec. It was from Quebec, just so you know. And he said, what do I do now? What do I do now? My body there did a wonderful job, and now he's in two parts, you know, so what do I do? He said, I know what to do. This is the greatest solution. We have Photoshop. We have Photoshop in the world. I'm going to fix his eye, his nose, everything. I'll do some fixing there, some Photoshop art. And we have how we need it. Great. We started painting and fixing here and there and there. And came out a picture of Brad Pitt. Really amazing Caesar, dictator. Wow, really good. Comes the emperor, all nervous. He looks at it. This is uglier than before. What are you doing? That you don't know how to paint. Off with his head. ISIS style again. They killed him. I want to cry, but I don't feel comfortable. But that's what happened. It's terrible. Now the emperor wants a picture, wants his portrait. Now everybody's leaving the country. All the painters know that they're in danger. What are they going to do? But they found another one. Another cave, they found another painter, very professional, and brought him to the palace. Now what do you do now? He thought. The first one was very accurate, did a wonderful job, lost his head, literally. The second one did the fixing, which is reasonable, and lost his head. So he began to have an headache because he knows what's going to happen. What do I do now? What do I do now? He thought, he prayed, and he had an idea. He started to took the brushes and started painting something completely different. Completely different. He started drawing a beautiful landscape, green grass, beautiful blue sky, some clouds. In the sky, he started drawing a beautiful bird, very rare kind of bird, and she had a golden feather on her head, really exotic. And then he started drawing a horse, a royal horse. What's going on? Very professionally. And then he started to paint a hunter with the royal cape of the emperor. And he started actually painting the emperor with a cape of a hunter. What's going on? But listen carefully. The wooden leg, the baseball bat, was covered with the body of the horse, so it couldn't be seen in the painting. Yeah? What's with the eye? The hunter was holding a rifle, a hunting rifle. So he had to close his eyes to aim at the bird. So this glass eye was closed. It was aiming. Great. Now what's with the scar? Yeah, the gun's butt was hiding the scar, and the hook was holding the rifle. So he couldn't see any of it. He called the emperor and told him, "Please, emperor, please look." He was very nervous. The emperor reached the picture and looked. "That's me! That's me! At last! That's me! Exactly! That's me! That was what I was waiting for! This is exactly what I wanted! At last!" Now, actually, this painter received all the good things from the emperor. He received money and gold. He became the prime minister. He received the king's daughter that looks exactly like her father. It was beautiful. And he had a beautiful life because of this idea. Now, what's the message in here? What's the message in all of this? What did the first painter do? He did exactly the reality. This is what we get, this is what you have, and I painted. The second one, what did he do? He started fixing. He started lying. It wasn't the truth. He was hiding, so it wasn't accepted. The third one, what did he do? Nothing. He drew exactly what he saw, supposedly, but all the defects, all the bad points, they were covered. He didn't make them to be seen and shown. He took out, actually. He emphasized, he focused on the good things of the emperor. That was what he was doing. He didn't change anything. Just made a beautiful picture where your eye doesn't capture now all the defects and get focused on them. Because the human nature, you can have a beautiful, beautiful picture in the museum. You go with your wife to the museum, beautiful, enormous picture, and then your wife tells you, "But look at that. There's something there. There's something wrong in that corner. You see, it's coffee. But look, this is an amazing picture. No, but there's some coffee there. You see that? How did they do that?" That's the human nature, not only of the wives, also of the husbands. Yeah, don't get angry. You can say it backwards also. So we have that nature, and that comes from the serpent. That is negativity. When you focus on the bad things, and that's a human nature that brings us all the problems in the world. Everything bad comes from there. Our eyes are focusing all the time on the defects, on the things that are wrong, that are not exactly how we would think they should be, and then we suffer. Then we suffer. For example, your kids are doing something. Parents, usually they see what's wrong. They tell the child to arrange his room. He works like half an hour, and then there's like this I don't know, this little, what's popular today, I don't know, mini-me's, what is it called? Wow? Minions, yeah. Looks like Bart Simpson, but with one eye. Yeah, there's the minions there. And 1 million is on the floor there, and it's like, I told you to arrange the room, what's going on? It's 1 million in one eye, what do you want from him? Like the emperor, no. So we chased him. Also with your wife, your spouse, your wife asks you, I got really fat lately, right? You go, yeah, enormous, I can't believe it. Don't say that. You're like the face painter, what are you doing? Also, you can't tell her, no, you look like a broom, she knows you're lying. Tell her, you're perfect for me the way you are. You were created for me, everything's good. If you want, we go jogging, I love it too. You find something, a solution, yeah? But, no, I need to go with the truth. That's not the truth. If this truth is hurting someone, it means there's negativity in it. And so that means the serpent is dancing there, is in there. If there's negativity inside there, the serpent is there. So it's the truth. I need to talk in the name of the truth. You're talking in the name of the serpent. Welcome to the club. So that's something we need to know. We need to have this consciousness. We need to know that so we can start focusing on the good. Before we go to the main event, I just want to remind a little story about Rabbi Akiva. A huge spiritual giant. All we have today is through Rabbi Akiva, who started like simple peasant, most simplest man, and he reached the highest level, 24,000 students from nothing, from scratch, starting working and learning and becoming a rabbi, 24,000 students. And suddenly, in a plague, they all died. In about 30 days, 24,000 students, holy students, Tanaim, disappeared from the world. All his effort, everything got lost. What a normal person does. He takes a Valium, he goes to bed for 100 years, right? So yeah, I'm going to sleep now, you know what? They're all dead, let's sleep. In the good case, unless he does something worse. What did Rabbi Akiva do? It's written, he went to the south and started over. 5 students. 5 students? What is 5 students? Where are the 24,000? 5 students? It's a waste of time. Now you're old. So many years of being away from home. His wife sacrificed her life for him to study. For so many years. Now you're starting 5 new students? What is that? 5 new students. Rabbi Meir Bar Ames, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the list goes on 5 diamonds that illuminate till today the entire world. Everything we speak is based on what they taught us. How did he do it? How can someone start over like that? He knew this secret. He knew where there's depression. When you say, I give up, that's the serpent. That's a lie. Everything is lost, that's not my problem. I focus on what I need to do. I need to start over and over. As long as it takes, I do my job. I don't do the serpent's job. Okay? She's got her salary, she eats, dirt, I don't know. Let her do her thing, his thing, its thing, I don't know, but that's the focusing we have to have in life. In our marriage, in our personal life, in our business, be positive. Start giving thanks for everything we have. Because in everything, the same way, it's amazing, this thing that Rabbi Nachman said, listen to it. If you believe you can damage or you can ruin, believe also that you can fix, you can rectify. What Rabbi Nachman tells us? There's a secret in this line. What he tells us? Just say, believe you can fix. No, if you believe you can destroy, then believe you can fix. Well, believe you can fix, it's enough. It's not enough, we don't understand. The secret is here. In the same manner, the same way, the same effort, natural effort, that you have to find the bad, to find the dirt, to find that coffee there in the picture, the same effort, you need to use it to find the good. I'm not telling you to be perfect, to just find the good, it's hard. But the same way you find the bad so easily, work on it to find also the good. So it will be a little bit of balance, and that's an amazing start for an amazing life. So I really want to welcome now, very proud and happy to welcome an amazing friend and colleague and teacher, most importantly a teacher, Rabbi Lazer Brody, that I owe him a lot. Very proud to be here with him, and I thank you all. And now we'll learn practically how we can really start over and change our life. B'ezrat Hashem, Rabbi Lazer Brody.
With Hashem's love and grace, good evening, Toronto. This is Lazer Brody from the holy city of North York. Baruch Hashem, before we begin our lesson this evening, I'm going to make a dedication, special dedication. And our learning together, we want to dedicate to the loving memory of Hannah Bat Avram. And we all want to pray for Refuah Shlema, for Rachel Sur Bat Miriam Esther, and Refuah Shlema for Shengel Bat Riva, amongst all the people that aren't feeling well in Klal Yisrael. And add another prayer that everyone, the salvation, each one of us is wishing for, each one of us, that everyone in all of Am Yisrael is wishing for. And we pray for Eretz Yisrael, that this week's been hot, been burning and dry, that Hashem should have compassion on Eretz Yisrael and send lots of rain. And rain corresponds, the Gemara tells us that rain comes from Emunah. We strengthen our Emunah, and our learning together should send big clouds. Canada's got plenty, lots of water. Send them a few over to Eretz Yisrael, and Baruch Hashem, we should all have Yeshua, salvation of the nation as a whole, and each one of us, all his heart's wishes for the best, and all the brachot he needs. Amen. As Rabbi Yonatan so beautifully began, that we're talking tonight about starting over. We have a signed check by Rabbi Nachman, and people think when you go around Eretz Yisrael, people go into the song in Breslov, have to sing. Earlier this year, I had a little event, as years of athletics, and they discovered I had a little bit of arrhythmia. So the doctors were very upset, and the cardiac, they said arrhythmia, and they saw my heart. And a normal person's beat heart goes like boom, boom, boom. And they put me on EKG, and if you read music, you could read my heart. My heart goes like this. Boom, 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 boom. Doctor says, what's that? I said, that's the heart of a Breslover. Boom, 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 boom. If you believe that you can ruin, believe you can fix. This comes from Likutei Moharan, second part, Torah 112. It is a signed check by Rabbi Nachman. Spiritual checks by Rabbi Nachman are highly honored in the Heavenly Bank. So everything we're talking about, everybody's going to get an open check. Now, before we begin, I want everyone to focus on his or her, your worst mess up. It could be with your wife. It could be with your mother-in-law. Not everybody's so lucky as Adam. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Some people love their mother. Could have been with your boss. Could have been with a child. Whatever it was. Rabbi Nachman also has another song that after he said, if you believe you can ruin, believe you can fix. And then we sing, Ein shum yebush ba'olam. Amar Rabbi Nachman, there's no despair in the world, says Rabbi Nachman. Ki b'chol makom shenafalta lasham, ni'ntzayitcha Hashem yitbarach. I just gave this secret. Wherever you fell, no matter how low, when a person is so low, and the evil inclination says, hey, there's no way up. Oh, there's no way up. You fell down. If you're in the ring, you're in a knockout, you're finished. Oh, Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is everywhere. We sing all of Israel, except the most popular song in Eretz Yisrael, the song that Shlomi Shabbat, from the words, 3 words, Ein od milvado, there was no one but Hashem. Ein od milvado, melo kol haaretz kevodo, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Melech. Wherever you are, there's Hashem. No matter how low you fall, there's Hashem. King David said this.
Psalm 139. Imasak Shemayim, when I'm so high, oh, there you are, Hashem. Imatzi Ashol Hineka. And I'm so down, I'm lower than below the level of purgatory. It's Sheol in the Zohar. It says there are 7 levels of purgatory, just like there's 7 levels of Gan Eden. And Sheol is the bottom. I mean, that's it. That's rock bottom. You're not alone. Huh? Because he discovered. King David was telling. King David said, were it not for Emunah, he would have been manic depressive. It's right there in Psalm 139. If I'm flying up in the sky, I'm on a high. The doctor says, excuse me, sir. He said, what's your name? My name is Mashiach. Oh, you're Mashiach. Yeah, you've got manic depressive. He says, no, I've got Hashem. Like Carole King used to sing, you got Hashem, do-do-do-do-do. You got Hashem, you just call my name. What do you call it? I'm going to tell you a story. See what it means, you really understand. Okay, focus on this problem, and I'm sorry I'm stepping on people's toes or putting salt in a wound, but we all have our problem. No one in this world is having a good time. Everyone has a challenge. One person, it's a health challenge. One person, it's a parnasa challenge, it's an income challenge. One person, it's a special needs child. One person, it's a marriage. That's a painful challenge. Whatever your challenge is, and now you know we've learned already that if you can ruin something, you can fix. Hope number 1. Hope number 2, there's no despair in the world. Oh, that's all well and good, you say. But Rabbi Lazer, how do I fix it? Now we're trying to fix it. But in order to understand how to fix it, we have to understand what the problem is. For example, what's a good physician? A good physician, he has the power of diagnosis. He can find out what the problem is. What the problem is, then as soon as he finds out what the problem is, he could solve it. And then he said, see, this is myself. If I would listen to the cardiologist, they said, oh, you got a problem with your heart and this and that. Didn't see, one day, athletic, and you're running, you're sprinting, lifting weights the next day. So finally went to a natural doctor, a chiropractor, who's a specialist in natural doctor. He checked me out. And he says, I got good news for you, Rabbi. I said, what's the good news? He says, your heart is healthy. Oh, so I knew that all along. And I felt that. It didn't feel right. He said, you got a little glandular problem. I'm bringing a thyroid gland. Your thyroid gland lacks a little bit of iodine. So we give you some iodine. And your heart is a muscle. It gets a command from the gland. So as soon as the gland gives a proper command, you're back in business. Couldn't believe it. Whereas, without Emunah, and you listen to the doctors, I wouldn't have been here today because I'd have been stuck living next to a lab and with Coumadin, getting my blood checked if it's too thin, too thick, and you would take this blood thinner. You can't eat vegetables, so you become anemic and all these other problems. And instead of all of that, okay, Hashem, you're the doctor, I'm working for you. Okay, take some iodine pills and that's it. That was after I got a bracha from my beloved rabbi and spiritual guide, Rabbi Shalom and Arush, and Hashem bless him always. There is no despair in the world. But if you attack something from the bodily side, you have a problem. Where do you solve the problem? We're going to circumvent the body and go to the real core of the problem. Now let's learn it, and let's identify it, and let's solve it. Everybody think about your problem, because at the end of the evening, it's going to look completely different. Your problem's going to come not a problem, but a gift. And once we identify what the real problem is, that's 50% of the solution. So that's the great physician. As soon as he knows how to identify the problem, that's already 50% of the solution. Okay? So you're going to see, tonight we're going to have 50% of the solution. 50% solution, I'm going to give you a gift from Hashem. The other 50% you're going to have very soon, pretty soon, no more problem. And you say, hey, where's my problem? It's not there anymore. It's not there. King David also said this. I'm going to tell you a story about a carpenter. He's a carpenter. For 40 years, he was a carpenter. He worked for a big contractor in the city. And the contractor built houses, masonry. He had his own staff, his own plumbers, his own electricians. And the carpenter worked for the contractor, and he would build the closets, and he would build the kitchen, he would build the doors. He was a wonderful carpenter. And this contractor, he had a reputation for building wonderful, beautiful quality houses. And everybody was in demand because of the staff he had. Best plumbers, best electricians, and the carpenter. And the carpenter put in his heart as if every single cabinet, every single door. Well, the carpenter reached retirement age. He was already older. His kids were all married, had grandchildren. And he goes into the boss, and the boss is already the grandson of the original owner. And the contractor is already the grandson of his first boss. He goes and he speaks to him and he says, so I'd like to speak to you. He says, yeah, come on right in. He says, you know, pounding away at the wood and the saw and the block plane and this is day in, day out, 10 hours a day. It's kind of down on me. He said, you know, I'd like to spend some more time up north in the lakes and in the cabin with the fishing rod. My grandchildren, just my wife and I hanging out, getting up early and getting to work, and where he had long day work. He said, I'm kind of burnt out in carpentry. I want to retire. I know with the Social Security and National Insurance, it's going to be tough not having a salary, but it'd be even tougher if I have to keep on in this. It's time, I need some time. So here we're finished. This week we're finishing up the last house, and I'd like to start retirement next week. And the contractor says, you know, I appreciate that. When welcome, but I want you to do one more house for me. He says, what? One more house? One more house? It's another 6 months of work. He says, yeah, one more house. One more house. He says, but sir, you didn't tell me. He says, I forgot to. I committed myself yesterday. I signed a contract before you told me. I signed a contract. One more house. I need you to build one more house. Well, begrudgingly, he says, okay. He says, look, we appreciate you. We really appreciate you. He says to the carpenter, I want you to leave here, not just get your gold watch, and leave here with a nice gift, and let's celebrate. He says, okay, sir, I get the message. He walks out to Jesse, where he builds that last house, and every door belabored. He can't get himself out of bed in the morning. He finally gets to work, and he's got a long face. He's not usually smiling himself. And he's sawing with no will, and he's taking the block plane and his sander and shellacking, and the kitchen is a little bit slipshod, and the hinges, they're not exactly perfect, precision perfect like he's used to. And the formica, sometimes the green wasn't exactly matched between the upper cabinets and lower cabinets, where before he prided himself on everything. The doors didn't close 100%. And window frames and the door frames, kind of slipshod, not his usual work, because he had no will. He was burnt out, that's it. So finally, 6 months passed. The 6 months seemed an eternity. It seemed like 60 years. They passed, finished, and they're about to give the key to the new owner. And the contractor calls him in the office, and he says, I promised you that when you leave, have a gift. And I've got a gift for you. I says, by the way, you brought me the keys. He was the last one to finish. He completed the front door. He gives the contractor, yes, sir, here's the keys. You give to the buyer the keys to the new house. He says, the keys to this new house belong to you. This new house is our gift to you. He didn't know it was on. Yes, this is your house. It's my house. Just imagine the things we messed up in our lives. The way we didn't talk nicely to our spouse. The way we insulted our child. The way we didn't put our heart into our work. The way we didn't pray with kavanah, with intent. This slipshod. And we come up after 120 years to the heavenly court, and we show us, here's the keys, it was your house. Wow. Now we stop and think. I thought I was doing for myself. And I thought that this didn't affect me. So I didn't put my heart in it. And by not putting my heart in it, I caused pain, I caused insult to another person. I said what I said to my husband or to my wife or to my child because that's not my life. Do you know why marriage in North America doesn't succeed? Why does it doesn't succeed? If you had the Toronto Maple Leafs and they won 20 games and lost 80 games in a 100-game season, who would go see them play? You want to see a winning team. Okay, what about in North America? When in the first 10 years of marriage in North America, you can check this out, Canadian statistics are a little bit different from America. In America, first 10 years of marriage, only 41% of marriages work. In first 10 years, 59% of marriages in the USA are in divorce court. Canada beats America. In Canada, 45 out of 100 marriages work. Or 55 out of 100 marriages work. They've got a better score than America. But still, in Canada, you get 45 wins and 55 losses. Now hold it. There's 45 marriages in the first 10 years that you're in divorce court in Canada. That doesn't mean that the other 55 are all wine and roses. No, not yet. That means they haven't been in divorce court. Now let's count the next 5 years, the next 5 years after that, and it's not hunky-dory. Now, but the people that got divorced in the first 10 years, now they get their second marriage. You know what happens to a second marriage in Canada? 65 out of 100 are in divorce court in the first 10 years. And a third marriage goes up to 87. In other words, third marriages, only 13 out of 100 don't get divorced in the first 10 years. Why? Because people think it's not my house. It's not my house. If you would read the Zohar, or read the Garden of Peace, or Woman's Wisdom, it is your house. This is the keys to your own house. When you step on your spouse, you're stepping on yourself. We don't realize that. We could take this and we could extrapolate it to work. See, it's a boss in the company, people working for a paycheck. But stop and think. Why does Hashem have you do? Is it happenstance that you're working in this particular job, in this particular profession? No. This is part of your soul correction, exactly where it's your house. You're building your own house. So why do we make a mistake? Why do we not think this is our house? Because we're looking at the wrong aspect. We have two components, each one of us. We have a physical component and a spiritual component. The physical component is called the body. The spiritual component is called the soul. So who is the real me? Who is the real you? Is it the body or is it the soul? Well, 99% of people on the face of the earth, they would say it's the body. Because look what they invest in the body. They invest in the body clothes. Everybody wants to look good. That's why Helena Rubinstein and Estee Lauder are making so much money. You can't get what they give on the internet. And the men, what they invest again? They invest in the gym, this and that. What does it mean to be a successful man? 20-inch biceps. Okay. What happens to 20-inch biceps? The first moment a guy gets the flu, or if he pulls a muscle in the gym, they go down very quickly and they turn to flab. So it doesn't last. The body doesn't last. That's not your house. It's an outer coating of what's inside the house, what is perpetual, and that is the soul. When a person's orientation is for the soul, for example, you realize that your spouse, this is success in marriage, instant success in marriage. Okay, that my wife, my husband, this is the other half of my soul. These are not my words. Yonatan mentioned Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was a student of Rabbi Akiva. He wrote the Zohar, and he says in the Zohar, Palga de Gufa, Palga de Nishmata. He calls a husband and a wife two halves of one body, two halves of one soul. Two halves of one soul. Children, we say that children, first of all, they don't belong to us. They are us. They are us. Stop and think, if you look in the mirror, stop and think if you speak to yourself like you speak to your children. Or let's turn it around. If your boss would speak to you like you speak to your kids, you'd be on a psychiatrist's couch. There are many people. We're damaged to ourselves. Rabbi Nachman says that when a person leaves this world, he's still alive. If he's left one of two things, if he's left either children or students. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, he didn't have children. He had thousands and thousands of students. The Chazon Ish, he didn't have children, but he had thousands and thousands of people. They continue. Because when a person's teachings, that's his soul, the knowledge, that's the light of his soul, and it continues in the world, then the person's still alive. So that child, when you give the child over lovingly what you want to impart on that child, and that's not necessarily teaching him how to ride a bike. When we teach a child, we play ball with the child, ride a bike with the child, because when we play with the child, then the child will accept from us the light of the education we want to give to him. But the way we educate our children is to educate ourselves. We realize it's an extension of our souls. That what I do for that child, I'm doing for myself. That this is all for myself. What I do at work, I'm doing for myself. And realize that each one of us is doing a job in the world. This means each one of us doing a job in the world. And why it's important to put our entire being into whatever we do. And if we can't put our entire being into what we do, we have to reassess ourselves and now make an instant start. There was a young man, it's a parable that they tell in the Ukraine, and he was a hay pitcher. He would work with a pitchfork and pitch hay all day long. Well, there's a nobleman from Kiev, and he was driving through the outbank in central Ukraine, and he saw something very pastoral. He saw a young man, and he was pitching hay. And this nobleman, he said, well, this would make a beautiful mural on my wall. The field and the expansive fields in the Ukraine, the young man pitching hay with the perfect triangular physique. And he goes to the young man, he says, this is beautiful, your work of art. He says, how much you get paid here? He says, I get paid a ruble a day. You're doing this all the time, we get a ruble a day. He says, I'm going to bring you to my house, and I'm going to put a big pile of hay in my backyard, and I'm going to pay you a ruble an hour. He said, ruble an hour? You work 8 hours. You can work in 1 day what you make here working in 8 days. So that's good. So he takes his pitchfork and takes his knapsack, and he gets into the carriage, the horse-drawn carriage with the nobleman, takes him into the city. Okay, the nobleman's got a nice estate with a big backyard, about 3 acres, and he brings a pile of hay and gives him a pitchfork. He says, go to work, and I'm going to be sitting in my office, and I've got a bay window that looks out in the back, and I'm watching pitch hay. So he pitches hay, and he goes to a pile of hay from here and makes the pile there, and when all the hay is there, then he goes and pitches on the way back and forth. He pitches hay all day long. And he takes off his shirt, shows his muscles, and works up a good sweat like what the boss says. At the end of the week, he comes to the boss, and he says to the boss, he says, sir, thank you very much. I'm not going to continue. I'm going to go back home. He says, what, are you crazy? You're working 8 hours, you're making 8 times the money here in the city. I give you a place to live. I give you food. I give you everything. He says, why are you leaving me? He says, because I'm not doing anything. We have to stop and think ourselves. What are we doing? Are we doing something? Are we just doing something for the body, going through motions? The same thing. It takes a lot of courage to make a new beginning. But the evil inclination doesn't want you to make a new beginning. All right, now what does this mean? Now let's take it down, and this all sounds nice and turn it practical. There are 2 ways of attacking the problem. We can go the traditional way. The traditional way is the body-oriented way. All right, now keep in mind the problem, the original problem that you had in your head that you thought can't be fixed. It could be the marital problem, and it could be a marital problem with a strange child, and a problem with the career, a problem with the client you lost, or whatever it is, maybe a pending lawsuit, whatever it is. Okay, what does the body say? The body says this is the physicality. You're trapped in the body. You're in the physical world. What you see exists. What you don't see doesn't exist. That's what people think. And logic says there's no solution. Logic, your intellect, this is the king of the body world. So what happens when logic loses hope? A person gets negative emotions. What happens when a person gets negative emotions? He loses his capability of functioning. He loses capability of function, now it starts costing him a lot of money. Either he runs to doctors, or to lawyers, or to the medical profession, psychologists, psychiatrists, and the problem doesn't get solved. And he's still within the realm. The problem is still there. And the problem is still there. It's now a negative cycle, down and down and down, more anxiety and more negative emotions. And these wreak havoc within the person, within a person's marriage, a person's relationship with the children. And you see people go inside themselves because they're all looking for an escape. We're looking outside escape. You know what the North American breakfast is? North American breakfast? It's a zombie breakfast. It's unbelievable. You go into a family, and what's dad? Dad has two parts of his, Hashem gave 613 parts of the body. The only thing that's working, dad's brain is not working, his two thumbs are working. He's text messaging to somewhere. Mom, she's Facebooking. The one daughter, she's in her social media. And the son, he's in this computer game. No communication, no anything, no connection to soul. Because the bodies are so burnt out, they're looking for something outside. It used to be that a school teacher would teach mathematics. Others teach geography. Mathematics and geography is difficult to complete with computer games. When we were young, and we didn't have the text messaging, and we didn't have this type of thing, what do? We built tree houses, went in the woods, we played football, we rode bikes. We played where I come from in Maryland. It's not the same snow here. The only hockey you play is on roller skates. Okay, played hockey with roller skates, not on the ice. Nobody ever heard of ADD and ADHD. No, this is something in the last 20, 25 years that comes together with the bodily orientation. Okay. So we see a lot of the problems are unmade problems. So if we go the conventional route, the body solution doesn't work. Now we go to what Rabbi Nachman says. How do we find what Rabbi Nachman says? It sounds very nice. I mean, it's a nice little ditty, nice little song. Matan ma'amin she'efshar lekalkel, if you believe you can ruin. Ta'amin she'efshar letaken, believe that you can fix. Just sing it and get a smile on your face. Because Rabbi Nachman is talking about the soul. And the soul is a tiny part of Hashem. What do we learn? Now we're back to Emunah. We're back to the basics. Because this is the beginning of the solution, and people don't realize, oh, Emunah, it's pie in the sky, it's nice. No, it's a solution. It's the key to my happiness. It's the key to my success. And you see people that are happy and fulfilled and successful because they're connected. The Chofetz Chaim, who lived around the holy Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan, the holy Chofetz Chaim. He was 92 years old and rotted in Belarus in the middle of winter. And the boys were trying to walk up a hill. And they'd get near the top of the hill and they'd slip back and fall down the ice. Walk up the top of the hill, slip back and fall in the ice. The top of the hill was where the synagogue and the mikveh were. And the Chofetz Chaim's house was at the bottom of the hill. And the boys were trying to get up there after a big snow. It was an icy, rainy snow. And he was just slipping. And the Chofetz Chaim was walking with this cane. Personally, step by step, 92-year-old man. He left this world when he was 95. And he made it to the top of the hill. And the boys are really upset. Here, these healthy boys, healthy young Ukrainian boys. Here, we can't make the top of the hill. And the old man did. And he spoke to him disrespectfully. He didn't realize the Chofetz Chaim. They say, hey, old man, how'd you get to the top of the hill? And he said, he who's connected upstairs doesn't fall downstairs. Have to remember, when we're connected upward, we never fall down. As soon as we're connected up, it only goes up. Even Hashem is everywhere. Hashem lifts up. What is the difference between the neshama and the body? What does King Solomon, the wisest of all men, say about the neshama? He says, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam. That the candle of Hashem is the human soul. Have you ever watched, instead like Shabbat candles, watch them flicker? The flame flickers, it goes up, it goes up, it defies gravity. A flame goes upward. Why? Because a flame, it is much more sublime materialism than a piece of wood or a piece of metal. And gravity falls right down. The faster, the feather falls a little bit slower than a piece of metal. But a flame, it goes up. And this is the soul all the time yearns to go up. We don't feel good about ourselves because we bring the soul down. When the body overrules and overcomes the soul, it pulls the soul down, and that's where the negative emotions come from. And that's where the despair comes from. So now let's turn priorities around. We see that the conventional way, at best, the best odds of a conventional solution to this problem, this difficult, and we don't know how to solve our problem, is 50%. And maybe a person's got an income problem. Okay, maybe Hashem give him income, maybe not. As soon as the orientation turns around, wait a second, the real me is not the body. It's the soul. It's the light within my eyes that reflects the soul. When you look at a person's eyes and you see that light reflected, and you see what Rabbi Simcha Meir of Dvinsk called Or Sameach of the Yeshiva name, the happy light. Why the happy light? Because a person's soul reflects the light of Hashem. The more you have the light of Hashem, the stronger the Emunah, the more you have light of Hashem. And this puts Helena Rubinstein, Estee Lauder out of business. It also puts the gym out of business. Because when you have the light of Hashem reflecting from your eyes, this is what makes you gorgeous. If people would look at for a soulmate, like a lot of young people, they come to me, and the blessing they ask for me, Rabbi, give me clarity. Give me clarity. Clarity means let me recognize who my proper soulmate is. So, Rabbi, standing on what foot, can you tell me who to marry? I said, yeah, look for somebody with a good heart. That's it. Because somebody has a good heart that has goodness. Goodness comes from above. That comes from the soul. The body, egotism, and all the negative comes from the body. So it's good for the soul. So what does the soul say? The soul knows 3 facts. This is very quick. First 3 chapters in Garden of Emunah. What do we learn? We learn that everything comes from Hashem, and that everything is for the very best, and that everything is for a purpose. Now, what's our purpose on earth? What's the house we're building? The house we're building is the house that takes us close to Hashem. What is the difficulty in life? Why is it difficulty in life? Now, from this moment on, the first 25% of the solution is not to blame yourself for the problem. Rav Shalom always says, I really have to say in every sentence, Rav Shalom, Rav Shalom. Like Rabbi David said, that I don't think, but this is belaboring. But still, I have to understand this is not my light, this is the light of my teacher. Everything I have, that Lazer does not have his own brain, his own long aside. Right, this is all the light I get from my teacher. That he's the sun, I'm the moon, I have no light of my own, it's light, his light. Rav Shalom says that the worst evil inclination in this generation, if I would ask you, everybody says, oh yeah, it's that one. No, it's not that one. That's the second worst evil inclination. The worst evil inclination is self-persecution. When you look in the mirror, you say, I'm not good enough. I'm average, I never hit it big in business, I never did this. And you look in the mirror and you say, I'm not beautiful, and I'm to tell you, you are beautiful. You are beautiful. You got a sign shed that everybody Israel is beautiful. Yafa at rayati, says King Solomon. He's talking about the soul. When you look at the body, different strokes for different folks. When you look at the soul, do you know what it means to say when you're not beautiful? It means to say that the Creator's not perfect. Anybody willing to say that? That's chutzpah. That's real insolent. To say that the Creator's not perfect? When you look in the mirror and you say, I'm not perfect, you say that Hashem's not perfect. He created you. He created you. You say, no, I'm perfect. You're perfect to do your job on earth. You're perfect to do your job on earth. And there's something else. Hashem does everything for purpose. That's the third principle of Emunah. So if Hashem does everything on purpose, you know what it means that you're alive on this world? It means that the world cannot exist without you. So stop persecuting yourself right now. That mistake that you thought was so terrible, Hashem made you do it. It's not like what the nation said, the devil made you do it. No, Hashem made you do it. Why does Hashem make you do it? Because Hashem wants you to get close to Him, and maybe you didn't have the sense on your own to get close to Him. So Hashem says, now I know this particular person's Achilles' heel, and I'm going to step on it. He's going, oh, Hashem! That's exactly what Hashem wanted. Oh, thank you, beloved son, beloved daughter. I've been waiting for a long time. Here you call my name. Now just imagine if you didn't have the problem. You didn't have that problem. You didn't have that problem, and your income was perfect, and your children were perfect, and your marriage was perfect, and everything was perfect. You'd be so far away from Hashem. More than that, you'd be arrogant. I'm greatest. Muhammad Ali, flight like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Nobody can beat me. By the end of his career, he got hit in the head so many times, he walked like a drum. No, that's not the way to be. The Gemara tells us that Hashem and the arrogant person cannot be in the same universe together. So Hashem wants you close to Him. Why close to Him? Because you're His only son and you're His only daughter. And it doesn't matter how many children you have, everyone is like the only one. And heaven forbid, a million times, heaven forbid, when someone loses a child and he's got 20 children, he doesn't have consolation, he's got 19 children left. No, he mourns the child he lost. When a soul is disconnected from Hashem, Hashem mourns that child. So Hashem does the biggest favor to bring that child back, because the only way to true happiness is your own personal connection to Hashem. I'm not talking about religion, I'm not talking about Shabbat, I'm not talking about kosher. And if you eat with someone says, I eat this extra and I eat this extra, and talking about this, they say bad things about other rabbis, bad things like that's the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara doesn't need you to be frum. It needs you to be happy and connected. And that's what the Chofetz Chaim says, when you're connected above, connected down. Now let's look at our problem. In the last 5 minutes, now we're looking at our problem with new eyes. That problem I have, it comes from you, Hashem. There was no way out of it. No way I could avoid that. But I said really something stupid. I made the dumbest mistake. It's something I practiced. The guy's a fighter in the ring, and something he practiced, and just when he practiced a million times, he dropped his guard, and he got smacked, he got knocked out, and he's now depressed. How did I do that? How did I do that? And it could be in business, it could be in marriage, it could be in anything. Or you said something, it's so out of character for you, insulted somebody, now the other person doesn't want to forgive you. And how do you make amends? First of all, you realize from Hashem. Now that we realize from Hashem, what's our second principle? That everything Hashem does is for the best. Because if I wouldn't have this problem, I'd be far away from Hashem. Anything that brings me close to Hashem is intrinsically good, because the purpose of the neshama in this world is to get close to Hashem. See, that doesn't make sense. Before the neshama comes down to the world, it's right there close to Hashem. So what does it need to come down to the world for? What's this, a game? No. The Gemara, the Yerushalmi Gemara in Tractate Pesachim, says that the neshama can't stand, it says two words in Aramaic, na'ameh v'ksufa, a free bread kitchen. Okay, suppose I give out tickets to everyone tonight. You don't have to pay for groceries tomorrow. Everybody could go, at the way down on Young Street, there's a free soup kitchen where the down and outers go. So now I've got tickets, I arrange, you're gonna go eat at the free soup kitchen. How many of you are gonna go there? Eat with the poor people and the beggars? Nobody wants to eat there. Why? Because we like, it's sweet, the bread that we eat for the fruit of our own labors. The Gemara says that someone would rather have one fruit from his own labors than 10 fruit that come from somewhere else. No, we want the fruit we work for. This is my fruit. This is nothing tastes so great like the bread you baked and the cake you baked. Or something, you go fishing and you catch a fish, that tastes fantastic. Fantastic. The fish you get out in the wild, you put on the grill. It's not like the fish you buy at the store. It's something you feel a connection. This fish. The vegans would say, why leave the fish alone? Grow the vegetables. Okay. Okay, so everything is for the best. What's this all to bring us close? And now we look at our problem. We learned one thing. It's not my fault. From this moment on, stop persecuting yourself. Self-persecution, the worst Yetzer Hara. Okay, now it's all for the best. So now let's look at our problem. Hashem, how is this for the best? How is this for the best? Okay, your marriage got messed up. You said something, one of you had a big breakdown, but now you're going to rebuild it. If you talk to a welder will teach you something. When a piece of metal breaks and he welds it, the bond, the weld, is stronger than the original metal. And that's why King Solomon says, Sheva nafal tzaddik bekam. 7 times a tzaddik fell. It means that if you haven't fallen in your face 7 times, you can't be a tzaddik. That's the criteria. The first criteria to become a tzaddik is not how much you've learned and how much that. How many times you've fallen on your face? But now, how many times have you gotten up? And the difference between a tzaddik and a person who's not a tzaddik, the tzaddik gets back up. And the one that's still down, waiting for the 10 count to be knocked out, that's the one who's subdued to the evil inclination. So now everything for the best. Now it is all for a purpose. Now that it's all for a purpose, what's the purpose? To get close to Hashem, to rectify ourselves. Now I know that Ein Shum Ye'ush, there's no despair, and whatever I ruin, it can be corrected. So what do? If it's something I ruin between man and fellow man, Allah says, first ask forgiveness. When you have to ask forgiveness, there's one precondition for asking forgiveness. You got to throw your ego aside. Throw your ego aside. Give your mother-in-law a call and say, Mother-in-law, I'm sorry, I should bless you. You raised me, my husband, you raised me, my wife. I'm eternally grateful for you. Send your mother-in-law her favorite flowers. It is halachically permissible to send your mother-in-law flowers. I promise. Now guys, you want a key to a good marriage? A key to a good marriage. Every Friday afternoon, call your father-in-law and say, Shabbat Shalom. Thanks for the daughter you raised for me. Wow. And your wife is going to look at you like this. What? You know how important it is a wife's relationship with her parents are? And you knock down her family? No, don't do that. Okay, so in order to say forgiveness, and now we ask forgiveness from Hashem. When we ask forgiveness for Hashem, we weld our soul. The soul becomes stronger. And you see how your relationship is better than before. Do you know what is a professional that admits he's wrong? You know what is a doctor that calls a patient up and he says, I misdiagnosed your case. I did research into it, and this is the real problem. Does anybody ever know a doctor that called himself and said, I gave you the wrong diagnosis? That's got to be a doctor. If you have a doctor like that, don't ever leave it. We'll see. Whatever your problem is, where does it say in halacha that you can't say I'm sorry to a child? No such halacha. The child will love you forever and ever. Whatever the problem is, now apply. It came from Hashem. It's all for the best, and it's all for a purpose. And now when you go by and you ask forgiveness from the person, ask forgiveness. So what about if it's money that I lost? It's money I lost, and I ask forgiveness for Hashem. Hashem, halacha requires me to give 10%. So you want to wake me up. It's not good to be stingy. Stingy is egotism. And one of the worst lusts is lust for money. So Hashem wanted you to start thinking about where the money is. Whatever your problem is, you take these 3 principles. It's all from Hashem, and it's all for the best, and it's all for a purpose. Apply it to whatever your problem is. Right now, you've already got 50% of the solution, but this 50% solution is the diagnosis. Now, the practical work, you do yourself. You ask forgiveness from that person. You ask forgiveness from yourself. You have to ask forgiveness for yourself for persecuting yourself, for looking in the mirror and saying, I'm not perfect. You are perfect. Just the way Hashem made you. Hashem is perfection, you're perfection. You're perfection. And our imperfection is thinking that we're not perfection. So now that we know that everything is for the best, if you learn the Garden of Gratitude, start with the one in the Garden of Gratitude says, since everything is for the best, then we can thank Hashem for everything. What? Says even terminal disease? Yes, even that. You know how people overcome terminal diseases? They thank Hashem for their terminal disease. And I say, Hashem, you know, this is all for the best, to bring me closer to you. I didn't have the brains to get close to you. Well, Hashem says, now you're on the way to close to me. I don't need to wake up call anymore. And all of a sudden, he goes to the oncologist, and he says, what? No chemo? And he says, recess? That's the way it works. Hashem is a loving Father. He does everything for the good. And you see, if there are financial problems, Hashem doesn't need financial problems. He's waiting for you. Don't go and knock out your Wall Street and open up another business and look for another job. No, go to Hashem. Everything is from Hashem. You can take this one by one, each individual problem. I wish we had more time, but we don't. But you have my blessing. Not only a blessing, I'll go a step further. You have my promise. If you take these three principles I told you, apply it to your problem, and you speak to Hashem about it and ask Him for His help, and if you hurt another person, take upon yourself to ask forgiveness of another person. That's so beautiful, and that brings humility. And once you bring humility into your life, your neshama shines. And it's a beautiful thing to say, I'm sorry. And when you forgive other people, Hashem forgives you, because He runs the world measure against measure. And when Hashem forgives you, that means no stern judgments in your life. That means those who need good health are going to get good health. And those that need good income, they're going to get good income. And those that need their soulmates are going to get soulmates. Want a lot of wedding invitations from Toronto this year. And a lot of invitations for Britol, for brisses, and for kiddushes this year, and all your heart's wishes for the best. Amen.